Canadian pole vaulter Alicia Newman still found enough courage to celebrate this horrible jump because she was more than satisfied with her previous performance. This is a stellar example of why you can't waste even a second in a race, especially near the end. André Verissimo had a near-perfect performance, and he screwed it all up once he started celebrating, just moments before the finish line, which was more than enough time for his opponent to beat him. It's like deja vu, but this time it's with Formula One. Wertheim stopped right before the finish line to do a little celebratory dance, but Nicolas Kaiser sped up from behind and beat him about 50 feet from the finish line. Wertheim's team couldn't believe Alicia Newman does it again. This time she beat the national record, so she didn't really care about making that jump. She just wanted to smash that like button, just like you should do if you haven't done so already. But no, in all seriousness, to see if she could make it, and to be honest, she got the height. This cyclist not only lost the race, but also fell from his bike after raising his arms to celebrate the win. He tried getting back on the bike, but obviously it was a little too late for that, so that's why you see him running towards the finish line. This female volleyball team learned why you should never lose your eye from the ball. They thought the kick meant a definite win, but in reality, it was a definite loss. During the Rio 2016, Chinese boxer Liu Bin thought he won the competition, so he started pumping himself up. But guess Peter Weru was better in the eyes of the judges. Just look at the despair in his eyes. Again, don't celebrate too early. See the team in the navy blue jerseys rolling on the floor thinking they've won. But if you look at the clock, you will see there is still 1 second left. And in that 1 second, this is what happened. In soccer, it's a little different. It's all about making sure the ball doesn't continue moving, because even though you presumably caught it, that doesn't mean jack. And here's how this goalie celebration cost them the match. Kirill Tereshin walked into the boxing ring thinking that his giant synthol arms would help him win the game. However, he failed to realize that he didn't even have enough muscle mass to lift up his biceps. Do we really need to tell you what happened next? They thought the block meant a definite win, but they weren't expecting this volleyball player to save it in such an amazing way. Back in 1994, in the legendary match between the Indiana Pacers and the Chicago Bulls, Indiana scored a two-pointer in the last 5 seconds of the game. After the shot, the timer read 0.8 seconds. In less than a second, the Bulls scored a three-pointer and took home the victory. Players were holding their heads in disbelief. Here's a crazy situation. One moment the player is in despair for missing the shot while the goalie is celebrating, and the next the roles have switched because the football gods decided to have a little fun. Folks, this is the Atlanta Peachtree 10K race. Ben Payne, that's the guy in front, started celebrating before crossing the finish line. And then the British Olympian Scott Overall saw that his opponent was slacking, so he took the chance. And took the gold. Thinking you've won when your opponent is still moving will cost you, just like it cost this team their victory when they went for a group hug and their opponents were not even close to giving up. Dwight started celebrating his poker win a little too early, since there was a jack on the table. But little did he know, the dealer then placed an 8 and a king, which was exactly what his opponent had in his hand, and thus taking the tournament and all the money from Dwight. During a basketball match, 2 3-pointers by each team determined the outcome of the game. The first team scored a 3-pointer and took the lead, and in the remaining 0.6 seconds of the game, the half-court shot by this player brought the team their victory. The goalie celebrated a little too early after seeing the ball bounce off the goalposts. While he was away celebrating and clenching his fists, the ball grew a brain and scored. During the 2018 Ironman Lake Placid, this runner jumped before making it across the finish line. It seems like the physical strain was more than his body could endure, so he wound up breaking his foot and had to crawl to make it across the finish line. Okay, we know it's volleyball, but these guys managed to beat the other team with their feet. And one of the guys even caught the ball in his hands, completely unaware of what just happened. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. You gotta know when to keep your mouth shut when in a poker tournament, otherwise this might end up happening. That's what we call death by final card. This is absolutely nuts. After a successful free throw that was supposed to win them the game, this little guy took the ball. Seeing how there were only 2 seconds on the clock, the kid threw the ball across the full length of the court and scored a winning three-pointer. We think the reactions from the crowd say it all. This time, the girls in the group hug got hit on the head with the ball that lost them the game. Just look at the disbelief on their faces. Priceless. Poker player Breens gets a little too excited over everything, so when the dealer placed a 4 on the table, he got a little too excited. So when his opponent got a flush, he jumped out of his chair and mocked Breens with one of his silly celebratory dances. This is what we call un-be-freaking-leavable. The guy in the tracksuit gave one of the players in the audience a major head start, about 200 feet, and then smoked him at the finish line. Poor guy, he thought he had a chance. This volleyball player had the craziest leg save at the Olympics. No one thought she would make it. Liu got a little too excited for being in the lead with a jack and a 10. But then the dealer pulled an 8 on top of Felicio's jack. An 8! So guess who was celebrating in the end? Was this going to be a foul ball? Almost. Guess they celebrated a little too early. Some might call it impossible, but not for this dude. He almost broke his leg for that ball, but he saved his team the point. You know what's funny here? The fact that the team that won the match are still smiling, but saying, What happened? This is going to be a definite ball foul. Nope, need a little more power. This dude went out the freaking door trying to save the point for his team, but you know what? It was more than worth it in the end. Never waste a single second on the baseball court. No matter how much time you think you have, get to first base and celebrate later. Otherwise, this might happen to you. This player doesn't care about his legs, he doesn't care about the judges. The only thing he's after is saving the point. How many times do we have to say it? Don't go for a team hug before you see the ball hit the ground. Otherwise, they might give you the ball inside the group hug. This is what a near save looks like. The Bucks thought they scored the winning shot in the very last second, but when you slow down the footage, you can clearly see that the ball is still in his hands when the buzzer rings. Saved it with a leg and banged them on the head with it during their group hug. Now that's how you win. This is what it looks like when despair and shame turn into celebration, and celebration does the opposite. But the biggest mistake was made by the goalie when he left to celebrate and the ball was like, "Hey, free shot, I'll take it." The Lakers got a huge surprise when they missed the free throw. This is pretty sad. The cyclist thought this was their last lap, so he started celebrating after crossing the finish line. And that's when the others beat him. Here's the same thing, but this time it's with bike riders. The guy starts celebrating too early, and that's when the others smoke him. Just watch what happens here. These players not only saved the ball twice, but they also scored. In basketball, it's not over until the very last second, and here's why. Thinking that the ball would just fall into the hoop on its own, Hornet player Kemba Walker got a little surprise after that victory dance. The fact that this guy celebrated before winning the race and lost is not funny. What's funny is the two ladies next to the camera calling him a dummy and an idiot. And finally, here is the match when Real Madrid started celebrating their victory a little too early, and then Barcelona took home the victory. Hey, it even happens to the very best. Thanks for watching, guys.